We're late. I'm so sorry. Okay.
But eventually, what?
I think it's good.
Probably up and then there.
We had to put our kids to bed and we rushed it down and disagreed about where to put the camera. So now we're just getting set. But we're ready to go. We're going to answer some marriage questions. Pull up. So most of you know I'm Lindsey, my Estes. This is my husband, Jesse, my Estes. And I am a marriage coach as of about 7 years ago. And we have created the Wife Project, From Roommates to Soulmates, and the Sex and Intimacy Project, which we recorded together. And essentially, I just really love talking about marriage. And we have a lot of conversations about it within our own home and in our own lives. So we like to get started. So we're going to just jump in because we want to have date night tonight too. And so we're going to just answer briefly. We cannot see very, very well.
Should I get the white?
Hi, Morgan, and we love you. Get what?
Should I get the white clip to move it?
No,
I
it's okay.
can't read that.
I think I can see it.
Okay.
Okay. I see you guys though. I'm so excited. I see names I recognize. Okay. So my husband refuses to go to church with me and our kids. Advice on how to handle it. We dealt with this for a while, not refusal, but just your walk was a little bit different. Can you speak to maybe what I did that helped you?
I mean, that's just a tough one because of the scenario. And I think that there's all sorts of avenues that can be dealt with and handled with church. I mean, for us, a lot of times we came down to this scenario of, I really like and enjoy my Sundays. And it might, for you guys, just be like finding a Saturday, like a Saturday evening that you can go to. That way, it still feels like you're going out, you're doing things, and then, your husband might want to be chilling on a Sunday. Other than that, yeah, it's just.
Well, I think that there's a huge aspect of when their faith is not in the same place that yours is, where Jesse struggled for quite a while with where he was walking and where his faith was, that I would go anyways. I would take the boys. Most of the time he would come, but there were moments where it just wasn't where he was at. And so I would go and lead my family. And there's 2 portions within the Wife Project where I talk about kind of taking that leadership and that ownership and doing it anyway, because your faith is your responsibility. I think this is really important for those who are looking at getting married or getting engaged, and having that awareness of where your spouse is. Now, Jesse's saved, loves Jesus, like just navigated through some difficulty with his faith. But if you're dating somebody who is not saved, it is the time now to be aware that everything is magnified in marriage. And if you want a life built upon a foundation of faith, it's not to say God can't do that work and it's not possible, but just to be hyper aware of what your life looks like and what you want your future life to look like. But you can't force it either. You're not going to be the one to save your spouse. You're not going to be the one to convince them. My encouragement is 1 Peter 3, to lead as an example without even speaking a word, by the way that you live out your faith and the way that you live your life, and let him witness that and be a part of it.
Yeah. And I think it also depends on, if your husband, like maybe just having that conversation with them in regards to like, hey, are you liking where we're going to church? What are you looking for in church? And letting him maybe decide, maybe where you guys are going currently is somewhere where he doesn't feel like he's being fed, or he feels like he's not being challenged. And I think that, going back to what she said, just in the times that we're in now, it's so important for the husband to be stepping up and trying to be the leader of the family. And I think maybe even just putting him in a position to where he's able to decide that. And I think recently we did that, and we've felt more encouraged to go to church and want to learn because we're being challenged. And so I think that's just an important part too, to make sure you guys are on the same page, and then finding out what the holdup is with him not wanting to go to church, and maybe him being a part of that decision will help, you guys be in a position to where you want to go.
Also, there's the spiritually dry and unbelieving husband. There's 2 sections of that within the Wife Project where I speak directly to the wife who's navigating that, but it can go for both parties, because you're never promised that you're going to be on the same wavelength the entirety of your relationship when it comes to your relationship with God. So I think grace is very important there as well. Hi, guys. Okay. Can you move past infidelity and have a happy, whole marriage and future? Absolutely. We have witnessed this in the lives of people we love, where it is not without difficulty that they overcome the infidelity, but we have seen massive restoration and redemption and grace in that. And God promises, forgiveness. Now, there are a lot of areas where there's going to be growth and hard conversations and accountability coming in when there's been betrayal, whether it's pornography or an actual affair or an emotional affair. All of that, you're giving pieces of your heart away to someone else. And so coming to a place where you have other people who can speak into your lives and help to navigate those moments when you hate each other and when you want to be separated, because that's bound to come, because the anger is there, the resentment is there, the feeling unwanted and undervalued, all those things are very real. So I think just having that awareness and being willing to communicate. But yes, absolutely, we have watched marriages become better than they ever were before because they had solid communication. Sorry, I'm trying to read.
Can you guys hear us okay? We're kind of far from the phone, so we just want to make sure you can hear us. Yeah, because I'm thinking I could grab those little microphones too.
You know where it is? That little that plugs in. Just that one. Yes, and there are podcast episodes. My assistant Chelsea's on, and there are podcast episodes about this. We have it on betrayal. We have it about a spiritually dry spouse. So that's the Living Easy podcast if you're not already subscribed.
Yeah, they can hear us.
Oh, good. Okay.
Thank you. What is that? Mama?
He's
Baby?
blinder than me.
I had LASIK too, which is crazy because you would think I could see all this stuff. I should be able to spot it. I can't.
That's okay.
So
okay.
That's fine. Thank you.
Forgive and trust after an affair. It's been 10 years and I still can't. It's so hard because I can't speak to that directly. But what I can say is that John Piper describes it as long suffering. And I know that sounds like a really difficult way to interpret it, but it is an act of long suffering and a choice to forgive. And the long suffering is had by the person who committed the affair, because they are intended to really pour into that marriage that they have harmed. And the other person is then having to choose to forgive sometimes every single day. So while it feels potentially impossible at times, and like you may never forget, I think that we have to be very clear that there's a difference between forgiveness and forgetting the act of what was done. You're never called to forget throughout scripture, but we are called to forgive in the sense that we're acknowledging the gravity of our own sin and the things that we have done against God. And yet he has forgiven us for so much. So who are we to withhold that forgiveness from someone else? Now, is that to say that every relationship can heal from betrayal or an affair? No, I don't think so. Maybe I'm wrong. But I do think that there is scripture that gives an out for that. If it's something that you feel that you cannot heal from, I do believe that God can restore. But again, it's that act of long suffering and forgiveness for potentially the rest of your marriage. So you have to determine if you're willing to navigate that.
Well, and it's challenging yourself. I think in any situation that I'm usually in, I tend to think of that verse where it says you will be judged basically at the measure that you judge someone else. And I think it's like, when Christ goes to the prostitute and he's like, who persecutes you? Who's here to call you out on this? And it says that he draws things out in the sand, and obviously we're only left to interpret what he's actually drawing into the sand or writing in the sand. But we can expect or guess that, maybe he's drawing, what those people are falling or stumbling into sin for. And I think it's just the idea of knowing, like, I'm not better than the sin that someone else has committed. Yeah. And I'm never above that. In the right circumstances, I think anyone can fall into that type of sin. And it's just important to know that you need to always keep that in mind and try as hard as you can, even though it's difficult and it's long suffering, trying as hard as you can to know that I don't want to be judged at the measure that I'm and forgiveness that I'm going to give on to someone else. I need to try my hardest to pour that out onto my spouse or, anyone in that situation.
Well, and it's not by your strength though. Like there's never going to be a place where you come and say, I have this all figured out because of who I am. That's where your reliance upon Jesus and the Holy Spirit to replace that resentment and the condescension or the frustration or withholding yourself from your spouse because of what they've done, that sometimes that's an act of obedience to God and an act of grace and understanding in order to live that out. Not dating anymore and lack of physical intimacy. We don't know if that is from a man or a woman. However, both spouses can plan dates and make them happen, even if you don't have money, even if you don't have a village. We have so many ideas, but some of them are like being home and setting up a picnic for when your spouse comes home and your kids are upstairs watching a movie and you have 30 minutes to yourself. There are a lot of avenues in which you can plan a date. I tell him, like, take me to Taco Bell. I don't care where we go or what we do. Take me to Taco Bell, just plan it and show intentionality. And I do the same. So when you are showing or desiring that thing, it's really impactful for you to be the one to start it, even though it feels like, okay, he should be doing it or she should be doing it. You can take steps forward in your relationship. You can pursue intimacy. And if they're turned off by it, if they are not interested in it, I think sometimes there can be outlying factors, whether it's resentment within the relationship, whether it's a lack of servitude in just like daily tasks or connecting throughout the day. Or if there's like pornography or other things going on behind the scenes, that's where I'm always all about counseling and talking to someone else, because it's keeping that kind of like a rock in between the two of you within your marriage that's preventing you from pursuing one another in an intimate way.
Yeah, I just think that it's such a good point that you're making in regards to finding like what
we need to loosen up. We're like tense. Okay, go ahead.
Tense.
You're not? I'm
so loose.
Okay.
But I just think it's a good point for you guys to know, like, it's just finding out what are the underlying issues as to why, someone might not be doing that. And I think because one of the other questions that I read in this, like all these questions that were sent over to us, is like one of them was asking, if your spouse, like if you're not dating and, stuff like that, like what do you do? And I just think it's like, or like my spouse isn't talking to me and, the communication's poor. Well, why is it? Like, you're upset about that now, but, were you guys like that when you were dating? When you were dating, you were probably talking, your spouse was probably talking, you guys were probably trying to date each other. And I just think, what has changed? And, even at this point in your marriage, like however far along you are into your marriage, it's good to kind of challenge yourself and then also feel silly, because there's sometimes when, I'm planning something, or like, even she went to Colorado. She went to Colorado recently, and like I bought her flowers before the trip. And that was just, even the feeling of it was interesting, going through the store and buying flowers. And I was like, man,
Are you saying it's rare?
It's been a while since I bought her flowers. And like,
but I appreciate
the whole process
so
though, it's different. It gets you out of your comfort zone. And when you're dating, you're doing that. You're feeling those, you have those different feelings because you're trying things that you're not constantly doing all the time. And I think that both of you need to be trying those different things. Like, hey, let's get out of our comfort zone, because in hindsight, it's those feelings that are what cause you to maybe romanticize the dating phase sometimes, to where you're like, well, we don't date anymore, or we're not kissing like we used to kiss, or we're not, buying flowers and stuff. So I just think, maybe take those things into consideration and challenge yourself to do the silly things that you did when you were dating now, because we shouldn't stop dating each other. We
I was
should keep
talking
doing
about
those
that with
things.
my sister-in-law and her husband about,
You might need to talk louder.
oh, sorry. I was talking to you, but about the things that some people did for me when I was younger and we were dating. And it reminds you of how special those things make you feel. But I think I like that you said silly, because I guess it's puts you in a vulnerable position to put yourself out there in the bedroom or in dating life and marriage, but while you're dating, to do things that you once did, like writing love notes or he did a message in a bottle for me one time, which was really cute. So I think it's getting outside of that and saying, okay, if I just build upon this day in and day out, I'm going to see the fruit of that. And also determining what makes them feel loved, because you don't want to be pouring yourself out there, putting yourself out there in a position when it's not actually making them feel seen, which is why love languages are so important. Okay. My husband gets mad when I'm not in the mood for sex. How do I get myself there when I don't feel it? This is, don't make faces. Okay. This is big because of emotional partnership. And I will say that the majority of women that I speak to, thousands of women a month, they don't feel in the mood or they don't want to have sex because their partner is not giving them the emotional partnership that they need within the relationship. So that can be doing the dishes, helping clean, helping care for the kids, taking on the burdens of the home or of the bills or of whatever it is on their shoulders. That the women who are feeling this, a lot of them are carrying a lot, while men are also carrying a lot with their jobs, and we don't feel the depth of that and at work. If we have children, we also have a job. And so the partnership within the home needs to be 100. When women are touched out and exhausted and worn down, they're going to go to the bedroom and they're going to say, do not touch me. So first and foremost, sex and intimacy project that we recorded together, we speak directly to men and women about having this sort of partnership together within the home, because it is crucial in order to build upon that sexual intimacy, especially with young children. It is very common with young children to feel touched out. So you have to give yourself space, date nights, date days, mornings without children, if you're able to. Secondly, the small affections. So when Jesse comes home, or your husband comes home, your wife comes home, show that intimacy first and foremost. A 6-second kiss, it's proven to create a deeper bond within your relationship. So put the kids aside. We were told early on in our marriage, we had a child-centered marriage and we needed to stop. We needed to be one another centered. And so finding that, and we are not perfect at this. Like, it is very easy for me to fall off and be like, hey, can you grab this? Or can you do this? And the disconnection starts at the door. So if you're intentional and look them in the eyes, say, how are you? How was your day? Give them a kiss, hold them, let them hold you. It starts the little affections. And then also knowing that some people prefer morning sex, some people prefer afternoon sex, some people prefer evening sex. Getting on the same page with one another and knowing what you like and what fills you is important. I am exhausted at night, not totally my cup of tea. So we have to navigate what works for both of us.
Yeah, I think it's also important just to know, going back to even the dating thing, is I just think that men in general, and like I'm including myself in this, and she's seen this probably recently, is like, I think there's a couple of things that us as men, like, just one, like, we always want to be and feel respected within our relationships. And I think that what we fail at many times is getting too complacent within our relationship and just kind of expecting things without continuing to do what we did when we were dating. And I just think, like, what I mean by that is, when we're dating and we're in competition, because we're men, when we're in competition
Are you competing for me?
Other men, we
sorry.
So
when you're in competition.
But when you're in competition with another man, like, you tend to, like, go out of your way to do certain things. Like, you're making sure that, hey, we're dating, we don't have, like, I don't have a ring on her finger, whatever. in those situations, you're getting the flowers, you're being uncomfortable, you're getting chocolates, you're asking her out on dates, you're pursuing your wife, you're opening the door for her, like all those things. And I just think, even like I said, I'm challenging myself in this. I'm not saying that we're perfect, and just know that we're never perfect in all this stuff that we say here. It's more of like, this is stuff that we're learning, that we're constantly trying to implement within our relationship to constantly strengthen our relationship. But I just think as men, like, we also need to step up our game in regards to like how we're pursuing our wives, and not just expecting like, hey, we're going to have, you owe me sexual intimacy at the end of the day, or at the beginning of the day when I wake up, or in the afternoon, whenever it is that you're, in the mood. Like, you can't just expect that without also being a respectable man and pursuing your wife throughout the day. And like, hey, when I come home from work, I'm going to go and kiss my wife and say, hey, I love you, babe. Like, how was your day? I'm going to listen to you as we sit down, and as you tell me about your day. I'm going to put my phone down. When we're like, we were just showing houses and stuff like that. And I was like, knowing like I need to open the door for my wife. I need to be respectful to my wife also. And I've noticed, like, even just in me, like, doing these
what did I
things,
do?
like, she laughs, like,
I giggled.
but I notice like those little types of actions that I'm doing, they encourage her to like feel more safe and respectful to me. And that's starting with me as a leader, though, in saying like, hey, I'm called up to be this man by Christ, and I need to be implementing that day to day. And I just think that that's one thing that we need to be challenging ourselves, all the husbands in here, like, we need to be challenging ourselves to like get out of our comfort zone and pursue our wives. So and just those things come along. I mean, the intimacy, our wives validating us throughout the day, and all those types of things, they come through when we're being respectable men. I feel like, and we just need to constantly challenge ourselves that we need to constantly try to implement those things. And when we are doing that, when we're making the decision, it's like, she's never in a position where she's like, hey, open my door for me, or like pull out my chair for me while we're at dinner. Instead, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And in that situation,
yeah,
it's my choice. And I'm saying, no, 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 no. I'm stepping up.
Yeah.
And I just think that's important. I think that's, as guys, we need to step up if we want to increase all of those things. It's just important for us to take the leadership role in that.
Yeah. And also, there are some people who hormonally just are a little bit lower with their libido. So get checked. We have people in our lives, women and men, who have been checked and realized like they just have different hormones, or their hormone levels are off. So get tested to see if it's possible, because there are a lot of men. If you're a woman whose husband has no sex drive, you're not alone. I get those messages weekly where they're asking why their husband doesn't want to have sex. Now, of course, there can always be underlying issues, other things going on, which is important to acknowledge, but also it could just be internally. So navigate those things.
And that's not their fault. Like, going into the rabbit hole,
no,
it's like statistically proven that
shutting him off.
All of this stuff that, we're being fed, stuff that's in our water supply, like, it literally is lowering those levels for men.
That's
so
true.
It's good to be aware of that.
Okay. Oh gosh, some of these guys are very, very pointed and direct to one person. So,
but we could say like what question we might ask their spouse with some of them.
Okay. First couple years of babies, how did you keep your marriage strong? We didn't. We didn't. I was a witch. I was the meanest woman. I had severe postpartum anxiety. I also did not sleep at all, and I need my rest. So we struggled a lot. And I will tell you, the only way that we got through that 1000% was other people in our lives. We went to so many people and just cried and talked to them.
It's also good to our society has us built into these boxes to where we're not communicating all the time with other people that are our age and going through the same crap that we're going through. It helped, like, she means like we would go to another couple that was either our age or slightly older, and they would laugh and be like, yup, we went through that.
Or we're in it right now.
Yeah, or they're in it. And I just think it's very weird thing as humans. We like and have comfort and safety in the fact that someone else is dealing with the same crap that we're dealing with, or going through the same stuff that we are. Mm-hmm. And so just know, like, you're not alone. Mm-hmm. Babies, all of it. Like, it's so hard.
Our kids are 5 and 8,
you have to just keep pushing through.
Struggle. Yeah. No, but there are things. It's having conversations with other people, planning those date nights. Again, I have a resource. I'll send it out in my email list. So if you're not on my email list, you can just DM me and I'll get you on. But I'll send out a resource with date night ideas. I have, like, I don't know, 50 of them or something, for at-home date ideas. So it doesn't always have to be going out and doing things, as we said, but ensuring that you have that time. Also, I am all about mom days. It was probably one of the best things that my friend Jen taught me, was to take one day a week and go and do something. So whether that's when Jesse's home on a Saturday, or my mom could take the kids, or whatever it might be, and go for 4 hours and just be a human. Go drive, go listen to music, go meet a friend for coffee. Just take that time so that you are able to be the best version of yourself and can be refreshed mentally. Because when you're needed all of the time, the last, like, your leftovers is what goes to your spouse. And obviously that can cause a lot of damage and harm. I like to take showers. I would disappear for like an hour.
You need a really strong husband to make sure all that stuff is applicable, of course.
What do you mean?
Well, it can be hard on the husband too, because they're working all the time.
Sure.
And then they're like the day that they have off.
Yeah.
So,
but then they get their time.
And you have to navigate that. You have to balance it. And also, what helped us too is, if you're not in that situation, was like having friends that maybe had kids that you could, like, swap. Hey, let's swap. Yeah. Hey, this week you guys watch our kids for 2 hours. Like, that's not too much to ask. Mm-hmm. And then next week we'll watch your kids for 2 hours. Yeah. That's just a way to kind of find, a way to get someone. Cause I know there's a lot of people we see in the comments where, they're like, I don't have family. I don't have that support system. And, I'm assuming you have jobs. Somebody's got a job. Maybe. Meet some people, find some friends, and you got to try to, help each other out, because the reality is your friends probably want some time too.
Yeah.
So
truth, bro. Okay. I've gained weight, struggling with it in our marriage.
What does that mean?
Probably, maybe I've gained weight, so struggling with intimacy, but this is difficult in that you really can only control yourself. And this is something that I have thought about recently. I've been on kind of a little journey for myself, mentally, physically. And Jesse and I, when we were first married, we bonded over chocolate covered popcorn. We would eat chocolate covered popcorn probably every single night. And then we would get fast food. It was just really, we both
great times.
It was really fun, but we both gained a lot of weight. And as I've grown up and just matured and kind of realized what I want for myself long-term, I've determined I can only be responsible for myself. And if I'm finding that my weight or my energy levels are affecting my family, they're affecting my children, if they're affecting my intimacy, I don't want to be a part of that. And that's just a decision that I think we have to make for ourselves. It is not always easy to get to that place, especially with young kids. I used to squat with Sutton. Like, I would hold him. Do you remember that? I would squat with him and would try to work out, and he would climb all over me. I did the best that I could. And now I work out from my bedroom. So I think that it's a determination you have to make in your mind. You cannot force your spouse to be part of that. But I think that I am so big on being a couple who levels up together and coming to a place where you desire good things together. Jesse's a pickleball player. I am trying to learn how to play it.
I just got destroyed tonight in a pickleball matchmaking tournament.
Yeah.
So I was really sad, but I feel better now.
Yeah, good.
It was
but doing that together, like, that's a fitness activity. So instead of bonding over chocolate covered popcorn, we're doing pickleball. We went to the gym together until I shifted. We go on walks together as a family and separately. So doing those things to where you feel good about yourself, because when you're feeling insecure or mentally unhealthy, or you're not like physically fit for your family and your children, it can cause a lot. It's like a domino effect where you really start to feel it. So we talk about this in the Sex and Intimacy Project as well, about leveling up together and finding those things like that are adventurous and fun. We have family who they like bike together, and I'm going to buy a bike soon because I had so much fun doing it. So I don't know. I just think find something you enjoy. Don't make it this big project for yourself, and just also take that ownership on you. Like, I want this for me, and I'm not going to drag anyone down with me. I'm not going to let anybody drag me down. I'm just going to take this road and make it a part of my life. Okay. This is going to be the last question. Did you highlight that for a reason?
No, I just
nagging.
no,
Okay.
we're trying to find like different topics.
Go ahead. What are the boundaries, or what is the boundary, I guess, between communicating your feelings and nagging? Do you have a thought?
No. What do you-
Don't be careful.
I'm not.
Do I nag
I
you?
just thought it was a different topic.
Do I nag you?
No. Oh,
Really?
well, like we've had moments. I feel
Yeah.
like we've gone back and forth between moments where
What
we
is a
both
moment where I'm nagging you?
do
Like,
that.
what does that look like?
Gosh, I don't know. Well, I don't have any examples.
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, like little things, like cleaning. Oh gosh, cleaning your facial hair out of the sink. That drives me bonkers.
It drives me bonkers. I don't want to clean.
So I find that it becomes repetitive, right? What I have determined, and this may not be an answer people like, is that there are certain things you just learn to do yourself. This does not mean that you're giving in and acquiescing to allow your spouse to be a slob and do whatever they want. But if there are things that really get under your skin, but don't necessarily get under your spouse's skin, while we believe 100 in partnership in the home, and we have our separate like chores and responsibilities within the home that we both do and are intentional about doing. I have an Instagram reel about this, but there is also a place where I'm like, okay, if this bothers me enough, Lindsey, it takes you 3 seconds to swish it out of the sink and do it yourself. And instead of creating dissension within the relationship. However, communicating feelings would be to say, hey, babe, it makes me feel crazy when I walk by and we just cleaned and there's hair all over the sink, which there are tons of things he could do this to me. I'm probably more sloppy.
And then you
him.
say, tough luck.
Yeah, no. So, no. So then I'm saying it makes me feel this way, not you, and you learn this in therapy and all kinds of things, but I feel this, like I feel overstimulated and overwhelmed when our island is cluttered with things. And he will say, okay, I understand. I will try to do better in that. Like, I didn't realize it was making you feel that way. A lot of the time we really assume that somebody knows what we're talking about. If you're constantly repeating yourself and it's a really important issue to you, you're not able to handle it, or you just feel like they're being lazy, again, bring in another couple so that that man can speak into your husband's life, or that woman can speak into your wife's life, because a lot of the time we hear better from the same sex than from our spouse.
Well, the most important thing is, and we've heard this from other people, was, if you have an issue, or there's something like, even, the hairs in a sink or something like that, or, something, something's just bothering you. The best example we've had was like, hey, if this bothers you, wait a week. And if it's something that is still upsetting you, then talk to your spouse or communicate with them. And in that moment, you're not emotional anymore.
Yeah.
You're still realizing like, hey, this is a big issue for me. It's really bothering me. And in that type of tone and mindset, you're going to communicate with your spouse a lot better. Because if you see something and you're just like,
emotionally react.
This is I've seen these shoes here next to the island for the 20th time, whatever. If you go and talk to your spouse in that moment, you mentally, like, you cannot swap between emotional and rational.
Mhm.
And so if you're emotional, you got to stop. You hold on to those words, you process them, wait, sleep on it, and get back to them the next day or another time. Because if you're emotional about something that's been bothering you and you're trying to communicate to your spouse at that time, it's not going to work. That's when it turns into a nagging situation where you're like, hey, you keep bothering about this issue, but it's not going anywhere because you're both emotional.
Yeah.
And I just think it's helped us so much.
You're really good at that. I am not so great at that. I get a lot of anxiety. I just verbally process. And so I've slowly been learning from Jesse, because he will say, okay, like in a moment. And then I know, okay, this isn't the time for that, which I appreciate and respect the ability to step back and say, hey, let's come back to this. To when I can just say, hey, can I just talk to you about this thing? And that's kind of what we do, I guess, where we really do. I saw something where somebody was asking, like, we fight all the time. And I think so much of fighting all the time is not knowing how to communicate effectively, which I talk about in the Wife Project course, but also coming to a place where you say, hey, I don't need to do this now. I don't need to let it boil my blood. Like, it's an issue. We all have issues in relationship. And if we can acknowledge that and say, we're not alone in feeling this way, we're just coming to a place where, like, there's a disagreement and we need to navigate it, that you feel less of this pressure, like you need to fix it instantly, because it's a long game. And if we have eternity at hand, then these petty issues really do, in scale, seem as small as they actually are. So, yeah, I think that's important. Anyway, that was a lot of questions. We definitely answer about 99% of the questions that we received within both the Wife Project and Intimacy Project. The courses, we are doing a Black Friday sale of $100 off of any marriage course. So do buy it. It's going to be, I think I have it set for 3 days only, 2 days only. So if you're not on my email list, again, just email me and I'll get you the information. And this is a really, really good sale. We very rarely do this. So $97 for Wife Project. And we also have payment plans. So Affirm, where you can pay kind of as much as you want to and disperse it over the month. So,
and just know, like, we aren't perfect at marriage. We're not perfect at relationships.
Yeah.
We have,
that's why this ministry is what it is because we have been through so much junk.
If you've gone through it, we've gone through it, and we've failed and fallen on our faces. One thing that I think we've always just done well is talking to people that are ahead of us in life, that have been able to coach us and walk us through things. And it's been the most valuable. And so I think that if you guys ever need to talk about these things, like, reach out to us. And I mean, we'd love to be able to help you guys any way that we can.
Yeah.
So,
okay. Well, it was fun. We'll do it more. I know I don't do this a lot. I get kind of nervous. I think we get kind of nervous. So, which is so funny because we talk about this stuff all day long together. And
we try to be the fun friends, but we're
serious.
Talk about relationships constantly.
Yeah. With our friendships.
Yeah. At some point, we're always just talking about relationships.
Marriage? We do that a lot.
Well,
we're really fun.
Someone brings it up at some point and we talk about it.
Yeah.
So
it's because it's what we love.
Yeah.
But anyway, we love you guys and thank you for being here. And we will see you next time. Bye.
See you guys.
Oh, that was awful.
I don't think it was bad.
No? I felt like it was off, like the vibes.
You were just in your head.